So, just ask a couple questions, answer a couple questions that you guys may have gotten, that I know I've gotten some repetitive ass questions. Monroe, Mariella, whatever you want to call yourself today, ask the question too. So that's not very calming. Eminem's Venom? No. Um, no, it's not. I'm like, why is this on my jazzy playlist? I go in and out of consciousness clearly. So yeah, just kind of have a conversation about that to get our mood by. So does everybody have their drink?
I have water.
That's perfectly fine.
I
Are you
had an iced tea
alcohol?
earlier today.
Yeah.
Okay, that you're the only one drinking something with alcohol in it. Cool. Okay, Christine,
Mm.
you're one of the actual panelists, so why don't you
Oh no.
kind of tell us about yourself? Let's talk about like what's writing to you, what's poetry to you, what does it mean to you, and all that good jazz.
Those are very broad topics, but I shall do my best.
I do
Uh,
that to you all the time, don't I? Like I give you this topic.
and then there's a lot of dead air because I'm just like, But anyways, hi, my name's Christine. I am from the suburbs of Chicago in Illinois. Um, what else should I say about myself? I don't know. I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm a big Supernatural fan.
Nice.
Um, I think I'll move to the questions. Um, so writing has always been like a part of my life, even when I was little. I loved reading and I loved like making up my own stories. And that kind of evolved into writing poetry and writing my stories into poetry. Um, and so I guess writing for me is a way for me to process like emotions or, you know, events in my life that like I need to process through, but it takes those like thoughts and emotions and makes it into like a physical thing.
Hmm.
Um, and so through that processing, the art that results can, help other people that haven't processed those emotions yet.
Dope. Is there an echo? Okay, I thought I heard an echo. I was like, oh no. That's really awesome. So how long would you say you've been writing poetry?
Since fourth grade, I can
Awesome.
distinctly remember it. I don't think I have the poem anymore, but
You remember what the kind of like the premises of what the poem was about?
it was about like mountains and oceans.
Nice. Aww. Peaceful
Hopefully,
things. It just kind of reminds me of your personality. You're so peaceful and loving. And so it would make sense that your first poem is about mountains and oceans. So what would you say is the one thing that poetry has done for you when it comes to developing your personality?
Mm, I think it's been helpful in like forming that kind of like patience and compassion side of things because I've had like writing poetry, like you kind of have to like pause and actually like think about stuff. Um, and it's a process. Like most of the time for me, like my poetry doesn't come straight out of my head.
Hmm.
Like it's a process for me. And even if I do end up writing something super fast, I always have to like go back and look at it. So I think poetry has taught me that it's more about, it's going to be cliche, it's more about like the journey and the creative process than it is about the actual like final product.
Gotcha. Okay, so I've been texting Toomey and she's just having some weird things going on with getting on Skype. So she'll be on in a few moments. I just want to say this week has been terrible for technology. First there was that outage with like T-Mobile, AT&T, and T, and Verizon, and then
Yeah.
my Uber's driver GPS just like dropped everything on my way home today, and she's like, I don't know where I'm going, and I'm just like, please just go straight. Yeah, technology has been really bad this week, so you guys bear with us as uh, hopefully no one freezes throughout our little interview time session today. Monroe, since you joined us today as a guest, why don't you count Mariella, Ella V, whatever you want to call yourself today? Let me know so I know how to properly address you because I'll call you all three throughout the conversation. That can get confusing.
It could just be Monroe. You're straight.
Okay, cool. That name. Monroe, tell us a little bit about yourself since you were so kind to join us today.
Dang, I didn't realize I'd be talking. That's crazy.
No, we've known each other for 12 years. I don't know why she acts so surprised when I do this stuff. Like she'd be like, "Oh, I didn't know." Like you've known me for so long. No
I just woke
excuse.
up from a 3-hour nap. I'm sorry. That's what I told you. I did not want to take that nap. I can't nap. It doesn't end well. It ends up with sleep. And then my body's like, hello, is it tomorrow?
What is it? What's happening?
I wonder how old people do it because they can nap and then wake up and then like prepare for bed. And I'm just like, how do you do that? Because if I nap, I'm up. Like I cannot go back to sleep.
Yeah.
I guess
True.
we'll know when we're old, huh?
Well, sleep hygiene is super important.
Yes, it is.
And it's something that a lot of us struggle with.
This fucked up when you have to have healthy boundaries with sleeping.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I don't know.
Your body is tired as shit, and you're like, no, I will not nap today.
I guess you
Yeah.
could do like a 30-minute power nap, 20 to 30-minute power nap.
True.
I've been doing that today because I've been just so tired, and it's been helpful.
30 minutes, Monroe, not 3 hours.
I tried that. I set an alarm. It didn't work.
You slept through that alarm. You were tired.
Yeah, so I have like fucking 5 billion names, all for different shit. Because it can't be simple. Yay. Yeah, I don't know. What were your questions? So when when did I first start doing poetry? I was in middle school, and I remember because I didn't really want to do the poem that she assigned because I thought it was dumb. And I was like, I can't relate to this. And she was like, can you think of something more personal? And I was like, no. I don't remember
No,
the
you were
poem.
difficult like that.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. The rest of us is over here like, okay, we just gonna bullshit it. You're like, I'm not feeling this.
Standards.
I was just like, no. I didn't want to do
Did you end up doing it?
I ended up doing it, but then like I was just like, all right, I'm gonna just bullshit some like happy family shit. And then she's like, oh my god, this is so great. And I was like, all lies.
That's a good beginning to writing poetry though. Like understanding that you don't want to write about something because you can't relate to it. I can understand that. Like I don't like bullshitting poetry. That's how come I don't write with writing prompts. Because I feel
That's
like
what it was.
it's just too it's too
Confined.
structured. Yeah, it's like I don't feel that. And that's another thing like on Instagram that I don't like being like those poetry groups and like write to my prompt and I'm like, no. No. You okay? I want to talk about like some of the struggles of a writer because I have been coming into trying to develop myself and my brand and learning about what I love to write about and just to like shaping myself as an artist. I've run into some really interesting struggles that I feel like we should talk about because I'm pretty sure y'all have too because this shit is crazy. This world is nuts and people act like it's just a violation of privacy at this point.
Yes. And it's like I don't share my story so you can use it and like stab me in the back with it. Like
Yes.
there's there's also like some like sort of like trust between like the artist or the poet and like our audience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I feel like that's more often than not, a lot of artists deal with that, where like they're taking something that's like so personal to them, and it takes so much to actually get to that point of like putting it out there, and then
Yeah.
it's just like, man.
Yeah. I think. Oh, is someone
Go
talking?
ahead.
I think I'm still struggling with like putting my work out there and, expecting that some people, it's not just for some people and they're just not going to like it. And sometimes I like take that personally because I'm like, oh, they rejected my artwork. They're rejecting me. You kind of like catastrophize and then you go down this like awkward spiral and it's just bad. But what is like a good, I guess, technique is to realize that even though the art that you make is personal, that it's not your identity.
Correct. I like that.
Mhm.
I think we talked about that on a podcast. Like, you're not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah. Stuff about labels too.
Yes, we had that conversation a lot. Um, okay, I'm gonna try to add to me now. That's funny. She said it's a picture.
Picture of Jamie Foxx.
Wait, is it
Oh
not?
my god.
It is a picture of Jamie
Oh,
Foxx.
okay.
That's the funny thing. Hi, Toomey.
Hey, sorry it took forever.
It's okay. So we started that conversation. We're going to reach out with you. Tell us a little bit about when you started writing poetry. Tell us where you're from. And Christine and Monroe, we'll loop back to you guys. But like, tell us one thing you hate about being a poet.
Okay.
Who's that starting with?
You, Toomey, you.
Oh, okay. One thing I hate about being I'm Timmy. I'm from Oxford, England, but I'm a student in Oxford, England from Nigeria. What I hate about being a poet. I don't know. Sometimes, even though I already have my own style, like I already know my own style, when I see other styles, I'm like, oh, why don't I do this like ever? So yeah, that's something I hate. Yeah.
Okay. Christine, we've heard about you and where you come from. Tell us one thing you hate about being a poet.
That's really hard. I guess like once you put like a spoken word piece or a piece of poetry out there and you share it with somebody and they just like brush it off like they don't pay attention. And so it makes me feel like, okay, like they didn't care about it. And I get this like attitude. I don't know if it's toxic or not, but I get this attitude where I'm just like, oh, you didn't like my work? All right, you don't deserve to see anything else.
It's your that's your poetry. You deserve to be sensitive about your shit, according to Erica Badu.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't think I introduced myself at all. Oh, okay. I'm May. I always do that. I'm May. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, born and raised in uptown Chicago, Illinois. I've been writing since I was like in 6th grade. My first poem was about someone getting dumped. Sets the tone for my life. And
Oh
to me,
wow. Sorry.
she's like, oh wow. I play entirely too much. And I think the one thing I hate about poetry is that everyone feels that you're obligated to tell them about their poetry because you write poetry. They're like, oh, you're a poet, so read my stuff. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to. Like, you can't force me. Let me become interested and want to read it on my own, like, and then they start sending you poetry in your DMs. And I'm like, who do you think I am? I'm nobody. Please stop. I've always wondered though, like, how are you not afraid that someone's going to steal your work when you do things like that?
That's something that I'm definitely like struggling with right now, and it's kind of the reason why I don't post a lot of like poetry stuff on my feed,
Mm.
because I'm a little bit hesitant, and like the stuff that I've like produced before, like I put a watermark on it, but
Mhm.
it's easy to like crop it out. Um, so it's just kind of like, okay, like I just have to trust people. And it's like if I find it somewhere else, I'm gonna call them out and I'd be like, yo, that's mine.
I don't understand the question. How do we trust that what?
No one's going to like copy our work and like try to play or push it as it's their own work.
Uh, oh wow. I don't think I don't know. I feel like I guess writers and poets are artists of a different branch. I was gonna say I think it's only artists that worry about that, but I think we should to an extent worry about that. Um, it's even worse to it's like it's easier to well not easier it's well yeah it is easier to get away with plagiarizing words than actual pictures because they could just move a couple of things around and say well actually I've added my stuff so now it's mine, but you could still see like traces, huge traces of you. So I don't know, I don't actually know what I would do. I think that's why I have like the thumbnail and a signature on like every poem. But when I can't or when I don't remember to, I'm just like, oh, let's just hope that everyone's good this time.
That's actually exactly why I started publishing my poetry. It had nothing to do with
Mm.
wanting to write books. I was in high school, and a certain someone who shall not be named quoted one of my poems without giving me credit in the poem.
Mm.
And it pissed me off so much that I took every poem I've ever wrote it and published it because I was like, I will sue the fuck out of you.
Mm.
That was honestly why my poetry is published. It has nothing to do with wanting to create books, but everything to do with wanting to sue someone.
That's relevant.
If we're being honest, like, ooh, a new book. Why? Because I don't want you stealing my shit.
I mean, it works.
It does. Copy it now. I'll take your fucking cereal boxes. So we got some really interesting questions on Instagram. Stop holding your face, Monroe. I saw that. And I want us to answer them. One of the ones that I want us to answer, just taking turns, actually comes from Monroe. Is basically how do we get over slumps of no motivation? I guess that means to write, correct?
Yes.
Cool.
So like writer's block.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I've got like one thing that I do. So if I like find that I can't like write anything and it's just like a blank space, or if it's like I start writing something and it's complete trash and I don't know where to go with it, I switch over to like a different like creative outlet. So sometimes I'll like listen to music or like make playlists, or maybe I'll like take a canvas out and like paint, even if it sucks. Because it's just a way to like use your creative brain without like having to think super super hard about words.
Mm.
That's a good idea. I like that idea. To me,
Yeah, that's basically it. It's I recently started like also in that mix of music started listening to podcasts, so where people actually tell stories. I realize I like to hear like actual descriptions, metaphors. I actually like to hear it being read to me. So when I'm like listening to how this person is describing a scenery, and like certain podcasts I've come across, they actually have like music in the back, and it's so calming. It's so like it fuses right with the story, and I think it yeah, it kind of gets me back on very slowly. Very slowly, might I add, because it's not just like immediately boom. It's just like a very slow draw.
Mm.
But with music, it's so quick. I think I don't know how to paint or draw, so
My
that
my
is, yeah,
paintings are all abstract.
fair enough.
Very beautiful. I've seen a few. They're really nice.
Wow.
Um, I think that art is really just like it doesn't have to be perfect. Like the lines don't have to be great. I just love the fact that people do it. So
Mm.
like the fact that you stood in front of a canvas and hit your brush on it and make these splatters that look like they mix in with the background, they pop out to me. The fact that you
Mm.
had patience enough to do that is beautiful because I would have got annoyed.
Yes, yes.
I don't watch the paint dry. I take out a hair dryer and try to dry it faster.
Oh my- That
Um,
sounds really cool, though.
right? Really cool.
Mm. Maybe we should take up painting. My
I'm
maybe we
saying
should.
I'm gonna go get me some canvases tomorrow. And when
Uh,
Tony calls me, I'll have one of his shirts on full of paint. Like,
oh, the stereotypical artist look.
right? Um, I would say one of the ways I get over like a creative block is just writing about the creative block. I've written about not being able to write. And that helps me. um, I just won't stop writing because I feel like, hello, is that your brother? Hello, Mariella's brother. I've I feel that it's important to always continue to do the work. So I write about not being able to write. I write about how much Tony gets on my nerves.
Mm.
I write about how I hate the color of my walls in my apartment. Like just things like that, just to get me motivated or just to continue the practice of writing.
Mm.
Typically helps me. So then when I hit a creative thing, I'm like, oh, and then like wake up and just like jot it down. That's my thing. So we've had like some really crazy shit going on in 2020, and I feel like the world. I feel like this is really a time for artists, right? Because no one ever tells the story right. History books, you can read different history books and different accounts of things that happened in history, and it's always different. And when it comes to certain things in history, I really do lean to artists to tell the story because a lot of artists have unbiased ways of telling what happened. How do you guys feel as artists? And Monroe, if you want to answer this question, you are open to. The floor is open, since it's not your question. Um, how do you feel as artists that it's your place or your responsibility to tell the story? Does that make sense? Like, um, I can't English today. I haven't been able to talk all day. So, what do you feel is your responsibility to do as an artist during these times? There's that question.
Boom.
Boom, light bulb.
Um, and like my end of the spectrum, I guess for me, really voicing about colorism in the Latino community and how it's a very constant like struggle. I remember I was having a conversation with this person I know, and they were like, in Spanish, they said, "¿Qué vela tienes tú en este entierro?" Which means like, what candle do you have for this burial? And I was just like, are you serious right now? And I'm like, first off, look at the community we grew up in. We didn't grow up surrounded by Hispanic people. We didn't grow up surrounded by white people. We grew up surrounded by Black people. This is a Black community that we are in. Like, I had Black teachers growing up my whole life. I have Black friends growing up my whole life. I cannot sit here and pretend that there is not racism in our community, nor not call it out. And they just like got very like, taken aback at the fact that I had a response. I guess like the expectation was that I wouldn't, or that I was just following a hashtag pretty much. And that shit got really upsetting. And I was just like, first off, fuck you. Secondly, you listen to LLP radio. So, like, fam, I know you've gone on these Instagrams. Like, hello. Yeah, I just feel like as far as for me, it's really holding the people around me accountable, especially because, like, if you hear a child in the background saying daddy, that is my nephew.
Oh no, I'm just like figuring out why the fuck you gotta drop these cherry bombs like we at war in the street. It's a celebratory holiday. You don't see a fucking bomb. They don't make no lights or nothing. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. One second.
So Christine, tell me about what obligation you feel as an artist during these times.
I think right now, one of like the things that I'm wrestling with, because I'm not quite sure how to like approach it, is like showing up, like basically just showing up in solidarity with people who are being oppressed, especially as an Asian American, because we have some history there. And, you know, like Malcolm X, his like one of his like best buddies was Japanese. I forgot his name. And, you know, just throughout history, like Asian Americans and have just been, they experienced a different type of oppression. And so I feel like it's my job to like come alongside people and be like, hey, like, I see your pain, I see your suffering, and I'm here for you, instead of like being like, oh, like my oppression is like better than yours or bigger than yours. Because hey, this ain't the oppression Olympics, okay?
Agreed. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
I like that. This ain't the oppression. You need to make that into like a quote thing and put it on Instagram, please. I can share that because it needs to be said. To me, as an artist, what responsibility do you feel? I know we've talked about this we've been talking pretty consistently since everything started, about how we feel and stuff like that. So tell me a little bit more about what responsibility you feel during this time.
I think it kind of happened in stages, really. First, it was just expressive. I felt like I've gone through stages of mourning where I'm just angry, then very sad, then just unbelief or denial that, that this is really life, this is really reality, and this is happening, and just constantly writing about that as I go on. Then I just got to a part where I was just numb, just not in the way that like numb usually feels, which is like nothing, but like numb in the sense, just the new numb I wasn't used to. So I didn't know how to handle it. It was like my brain refused to taking any more information while I was still giving out information. So right now I was just, right now I am still just giving out information to who I can. But I have definitely gotten to this stage where I need to take like little breaks off of just watching videos and reading stuff, and just really deep in that, wow, history was really told by the victors and it's a lie. And being someone who in high school was very keen on history, it's just, well, wow, basically. It's like an unraveling of like having to peel back everything. It's really a waste of tuition if you think about it. If you think about it. But yeah, what I'm doing right now is just sending as much information as I can, trying very hard not to talk to anyone who, like, not to talk to them, but like I do talk to people who seem to have a different view, which is the all lives matter, or I don't know, another view that is just weird. Trying to talk to them, and when I feel like my rage rising, I just step back a little bit, like, okay, bye, block. I tried my best. I did what I could, and you are not getting into my head. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
You said it best the last podcast. You said blockity block block. I like that. That was awesome. Um, I think as an artist, I feel it's my responsibility just to hold an account of everything that's been going on. Um, to tell the honest truth because we live in a time where, and it's always been this way, where certain people, we'll leave it at that, who don't want the truth to be released, switch things up in order to make it seem a certain way. And so 10, 15, 20 years from now, our children will be learning something completely different than what actually happened in 2020. And though it's unfortunate, it's true. I would talk to my grandmother about a lot of things that happened when she was alive and she was younger and she was in Chicago, and discrimination and segregation was really a thing. And I would talk to her about things that I learned at school, and she was like, honey, that's not really how that happened. Like, it was like the watered down version that we learned. And a lot of the things that they went through was a lot worse. So I'm grateful to know people who lived during those times, or to
Mhm.
have had no people, because we wouldn't know. We would just know what we read. And a lot of the things that we were allotted to read were not the accurate accounts. So I feel it's my obligation as an artist to not. I've given up on educating certain people. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't even try to have conversations no more. I'm just like, you're a lost cause, and I'm done. Like, it's just, it is what it is. I'm like, you're old, and eventually you're gonna die. And I hope you're like, when you do die, I hope your racist thoughts die with you. Like, that's just what it is. I just feel like I don't want to educate anymore. I don't want to defend my blackness anymore. I just want to tell the story. I want to be able to say, this is what I saw. This is what Donald Trump actually said. This is what CNN replayed 5 times so that we knew this is what he actually said. Like that, I think that's my obligation. It's just to make sure that the generations who come after me know the truth.
Yeah, I resonate with
Mhm.
that because I guess on a personal level, I feel like it's my job to like seek out people, um, and help like tell their stories,
Mhm.
um, and just tell stories about those people because you know we have like this huge like thing going on, but like one person's experience doesn't describe like the whole group of people,
Yes.
um, and so I love like having different people with different experiences and like talking to them, and having that inform like my art.
Nice. That kind of reminds me, and no, like, no pun intended, this is an actual book, The Vagina Monologues, where the author really did talk to different women, some of them who weren't even named, and told their stories about some of them learning to love themselves, some of them not, and how the hatred of like their womanhood started. That's kind of what you made me think of when you said telling other people's story. I was like, I like that. Um, but that's also important because you have a lot of people who don't really want to tell their story or who don't know how to. So I think as artists, that's also a part of our obligation to tell those stories that go unheard.
Mhm.
I dig it, ladies. I dig it. I have another question for you. This comes from a friend of mine named Misky Poetry. Her question is your thoughts on being a female writer, your milestones, and the challenges you faced. So, who hasn't started with the question? Who hasn't started answering first?
Is it me?
I think you may be it.
Yeah. Okay. I I remember when I first like publicly sharing my like spoken word art, and that was actually, was it last year? Yeah, I think it was last year. And so I did it in like this like coffee shop place, at college. We were having like an art night, and it was at the time like super male dominant in terms of like the artists. So like all of the musicians and like singers and painters, like they were all guys. And so I guess it was difficult to like come in as like a new artist, and also like not only a like female artist but also as like an Asian American artist, because at that school like everybody's like white except for like a handful of black dudes, and like there were 50, I counted, there were 50 like Asian people on campus out of like 2000.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was definitely like super intimidating. I had to nervous pee in the bathroom 3 times before I went up. Um, but I guess it was just like the look that people have in their eye when you like go up there. And it's kind of like not contempt, but it's like they're already doubting that this is going to be good. And they kind of see like I'm small, and so they're just like, oh, like this is gonna suck. um, but after I like shared my piece, I like the entire time, like I had the room quiet, like the whole coffee shop quiet, which says a lot because if they're talking, then they're not really paying attention. And so after like taking that first step that I was super scared of doing, it was actually like freeing.
Okay, so that would be your milestones and your challenges. So, what are your thoughts on being a female writer?
Ooh. As a female writer, I guess this is the thing where it's like mansplaining happens. And so like there's no wrong way to like do your art. Like it just is. And there's no wrong way to like be who you are because you just are. And so I hate it when like I make a piece, and then some guy like comes in and tries to like mansplain it and be like, no, you should have said it this way, or that's actually not true. And so that's something that I found super hard to like cope with and also like address, because I'm just like, boy, I'm a smack you.
Okay, Tumi, your thoughts on being a female writer, your milestones and challenges you faced.
Right. I think because I started writing in high school, and I went to an all girls Catholic school. So I've always been entrenched in femininity. And to an extent that in itself has its own prejudice that, um, you're one of us, so how can you really go up there? I guess I never really put out my writing till I left that environment, which is surprising to me because when I left and I started putting out my writing, it was still towards like female like audiences. Like most of my writing caters to women in terms of trauma, in terms of healing and stuff, and just yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would say. I don't know. I don't think I've gone through enough yet. Um, but I've definitely been mansplained to a lot, because I do blogs as well. Or just like, oh, why did you say it like that? I don't understand. Yeah, you do. We literally live in a Google world. Just Google it. It's a word. Just, oh, are you sure that's a word? Yeah, I am. I put it there. Yeah, pretty sure it's a word. Those are like, I feel like little like just microaggressions.
Mm.
They do get under my skin a lot. They more than they should. But in terms of my identity as a female poet or writer, I haven't really felt. I haven't felt the brass or what is called the abrasive side of it yet, just because I've been like cushioning myself in just more many women, just love and warmth and all the good stuff it has to offer. I'm not yet out there, and I'm kind of scared of that because that's where all the adversity and the real shit comes. So Yeah.
I think my thoughts of being a female writer is that it's like with everything else in life, there's always that need to prove that we can do it. And I think
Mm,
that's annoying. You know, there's always a need to prove that we are passionate. There's always a need to prove that we can write about certain things without being labeled certain ways. It's not equal. You know, you listen to certain poets who write poems about sex who are men, and it's art. You listen to certain women who write poems about sex, and oh, she's a freak. That was
Mhm.
always my thing as a writer, because when I first started out, my whole thing, you would know that I was getting ready to perform a poem about sex 'cause I would sit in the chair backwards. So I'd sit in the chair backwards, and everyone knew, oh, May's about to do something dirty, but I did it to make a point. Like, I'm not performing this because I'm a freak, and whether I am or
mm,
not is none of your business. I'm performing this because I have the right to as an artist. And everything that we write about is artistic. One of the milestones I feel and challenges that I feel I face is the desire for people that want me to be apologetic about my work. Kind of what you guys talked about, except I don't get it from men, I get it from women.
what?
That's not ladylike to say. You shouldn't talk about that. You know, certain things that you went through should not be put in your work. And I'm just like, well, fuck you, bitch, don't read it. um, that's just my attitude. So I feel
Mm,
like as artists, they always want us to present the art they feel is acceptable. And art is not necessarily for, I don't feel like I write to please people. I don't
mm,
necessarily feel like my artwork is for you to always relate to. My artwork is for me, and I share it with you because I love art so much that I'm willing to be open and share it with you. If you relate to it, cool. If you don't, so it doesn't change the fact that this is something that I felt and this is
mm.
something that I am. It just doesn't. Like, so fuck your opinion. But that's how come people don't really talk to me, because I've been in situations where I've looked at someone, I listened to them, and I'm like, well, fuck you and have a great day. That's just my
Mm.
personality. But I feel that as an artist, we don't have to apologize for the fact that we feel certain things and we want to write about it. And it may not be as pretty as you want it to be. That's just the truth.
Um, so I wanted to say something, but I have to go in a bit. It's
I
almost
know.
4 a.m.
Oh my God.
But
I'm sorry.
before I leave, literally as you were speaking, I was just like, oh my gosh, I just clocked like one thing that I definitely struggled with, and I think I still kind of.
What's that?
So as a as an international, it's very hard to, I don't know what identity in terms of as a writer I'm supposed to present myself in, or if
Mm,
I should be choosing an identity, and how, I don't know, just how to go with myself without like feeling some type of way. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I know who I am. I know you know, I eat a lot, I talk a lot, I debate a lot, I yell a lot, I dance a lot. Do you get what I mean? I do a lot of things. And sometimes at the back of my head is like, oh, but as a writer, should you really be doing these things? Like, would J.K. Rowling do this? And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about J.K. Rowling. It does happen sometimes where it's like it's a drill in my head, and I think it's it's like a norm that like has been formed in my community, like
mhm,
in Nigeria anyway, of what a writer should be just put together, especially female writers. You have to have it all together. You have to look a certain way. You have to look like you know what you're saying. You have to command the room. You have to command attention. And I don't think I do that enough. I don't think my person, like, what I struggle with in that sense is that, oh my gosh, I don't think my personality fits that view of what a writer should be. So that's definitely a struggle.
Well, to me, I think as we both know, there's just some people who believe that if you don't present yourself a certain way, you're not intelligent. So,
Mm. Oh, but those are some
Mm.
people.
we're
But
not
yeah.
going to go there. But I think that before you go, I just want to say to you that You don't have to compare yourself to anyone else as a writer, let alone as a female writer. What makes you you is the fact that you're not like everyone else. We live in a society that says that everyone should be the same. And if you're not the same, you're offensive. And if you don't agree with people, you're offensive. It's not our job to agree, and it's not our job to be like anyone else. As
Isn't
artists,
that isn't that weird though that there's an irony in that in being a writer you're so the whole point is your work has to stand out to do well, but somehow your personality has to blend in with the other writers to be considered a good. It's so weird. Like it really messes with my mind a lot.
that's the hypocritical world that we live in.
Yeah.
Get some rest. I
All
wish
right.
you shoot
Nice
me a
meeting
message.
you. Nice meeting you guys.
Nice meeting you too.
Bye.
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 Her Jamie Foxx thing cracked me up.
I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that.
Wasn't expecting. I was just expecting a circle that said "To."
Yeah.
I was not expecting Jamie Foxx drinking a soda. I just was.
And then she was like, "Oh yeah, it's just a picture of Jamie Foxx," and so I was just like, "Oh, it's probably just gonna be like one of those like professional photos."
Where he's
No.
looking
Yeah.
at that Obama picture. Oh, I'm sorry. I have such a crush on Obama. It's so bad. But that's my granddaddy.
Like y'all can't see her, but she flapping her hand like it's hot.
Oh, they'll be able to see me because I'm posting this on Instagram. And I'm
Oh,
posting
no.
this. And I said that. And I was looking at you eating them fries. I'm like, everybody's going to know Monroe is over here eating fries, looking at the camera, nodding her head, chewing and snacking. And I was like, I'm about to put you on blast.
It's cool. I like fries.
Oh my God. I feel so betrayed by sweet potato fries. Because some people put cinnamon on them. And that's a disgrace.
Wait, what?
Why?
Because they're disgusting and they're trying to kill me. I was like, y'all want me dead. That's what that is. I have a question for you guys. Would either of you be interested in sharing one of your poems?
Sure. I would have to go look for one, but
I think it would be really cool if we all just shared a poem. Because we're poets, and what better way to close something out than with a poem, and or to talk some shit. Why is your hand up like that? We're not in school.
I didn't want to interrupt.
I couldn't tell if you were like raising your hand or like because the way your camera is and my screen is split. So I see Christine and then you. So your hand kind of looked like you was trying to do like a high five thing on the side. I'm like, the fuck is she doing?
Sorry, I'm full of bad angles, bad lighting, and random ass backgrounds.
I like the background. It's very pink, like you.
Ew.
It kind of just like your personalities in your background. But what's your question?
Fuck, I forgot. Can it be a not appropriate poem?
Yeah, girl. Okay.
Alright, cool.
It is an inappropriate poem. Who are you talking to? Do you know me anymore?
Dude, so when like you were talking about like the difficulties of being a female writer, I was just like, yo, that's like my auntie told my mom if I could post some of my stuff in Spanish so she can read it, and I was like, that's a horrible idea, but I'll do it. And my sister was like, I read the piece to my mom, and my sister was on the phone, and she was like, yep, that's what she writes. And my mom was like, you can't post that up there. Your auntie can't see it. And my sister's like, that's what she asked for. So here we are.
I didn't give my mom my last book, and she felt some type of way about that. She was like, so I don't get a copy of your book? I was like, nope. She's like, I'm like, you don't get to get. I'm like, if you go buy it and read it, you did that to yourself. That's exactly how I feel. She's like, you always would let me read your stuff. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not shy about what I say anymore. So don't do it. I'm warning you now. I take no responsibility for how you feel.
Yes, I love that.
So I'm gonna read How I Love Delilah. What are you gonna read?
I'm gonna go get my notebook.
You don't know the name though?
No, good. I know which one. Oh my god, this is a struggle. Yes, I'm sitting on the floor in case y'all were wondering.
We could definitely tell.
Yeah.
Christine, what is the name of the piece you'd like to read?
So I have like two super short ones.
Cool.
Uh, wait. Okay.
Did you hear that pop? Can you hear like what's going on in my background?
Yeah, I heard it faintly.
I'm so happy I have one of those microphones that condense things because I literally was about to
Like
hit the deck.
I barely heard it.
I'm like over here, like, are y'all trying to blow up the world with these fireworks? Okay, what are the names of your piece?
All right, there's one called There Is Light, and then the other one is called And in That Moment I Knew I Was Healing.
Okay. Who would like to go first? Oh, that's your not it. Get the fuck out of here.
It was funny because neither of you were paying attention, so it's just like, all right, who's gonna notice first?
And my dumb ass was like, is that the not it? Instead of just doing like this. Okay, so as I find my poem, I guess I'll tell y'all something funny. My eldest sister, who has like the system of a child because she does no substances, is taking her first edible today. And I feel so bad that I'm not there watching this train wreck. I'm trying to think like if I want to read something like serious or if I want to just read my nasty shit because I have a lot of that. Don't. I hate y'all. Like y'all didn't have to do me like that.
What?
I am the host.
I'm the host. I do what I want.
Not really. Not really. Okay, I will read How I Love Delilah, which is not very short, but I'll get through it. Um, okay, ready? Oh, Tay. Gentle, soft, simple, yet complicated. Was the very first time my hand slipped the feel of her. In passing, I became infatuated with who she was supposed to be. The ideology of her significance created a sense of power in her name, so much so I only spoke it quietly. And even that gave my body that tingling feeling. You know the sensation, the one we really don't like to talk about? Well, I grew to love it. I loved it so much that the love of it grew an addiction for her. She was everything I was ever told was sinful, yet the closer I got to her, the more I understood the concept of me. I am a descendant of Eve, dripping the nectar of forbidden fruit down my thighs to this hot, hellish concrete, with many serpents slithering silently, waiting to sip the seductress serum with that diluted and differentiated me from everything that wasn't until I fell in love with her, Delilah. It was then that I realized what I was meant to be. See, even in marriage, I sometimes felt my desire for promiscuity was a little bit too dirty. My skirt was quilted far past my knees and crossed my ankles, never taught me how to love properly. And is it bad? I waited till it was time for passing and I found adventures with my hand. How sensitive, how succulent, how desirable. The feel of her eclipsing to serenity resembled that of a flower blossoming. See, no one ever told me what it was like to feel natural, to understand how a simple touch could make my knees weak, or what made her lips so soft, so sweet, so pigmented, why she looked so different from what others described as normal, or why she felt so fulfilled every time I helped her find her peak. It's interesting how we as females are shamed so that we neglect to speak, and we shy away from finding what Sister Maya Angelou once described as gold mines between our thighs. And as I lie, I research another pastime with heightened expectations of the new revelations I find. It took me nearly all my life just to realize the beauty I held. So gentle, soft, simple, yet complicated. How sensitive, Succulent, how desirable. I found that I can be, at 3 a.m., as the moon shimmers light into my bedroom and tickles my sheets, with my hand venturing the pride that has grown me into womanhood. Quick breaths I catch, closing my eyes, continuing enjoying Delilah's sweet treats, and the dripping of nectar from my liberated fruit tickles down my thighs to my bed sheets. It was here I learned how worthy a simple touch of me can be.
I can't snap, y'all. It's a problem.
I like your nail polish, BT Dubs. Super cute.
Ooh.
You.
Oh,
Ooh.
this is from the wedding. There's like sparkles on it. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, that's cute. Super cute. Okay, so who's next?
I mean, do you want to go?
Doesn't matter. I could go if you want me to go. Yeah, Christine
Yeah,
can
Monroe,
close
why
it
don't you
out.
go?
No, why not? I was gonna
No,
do.
I thought.
I was gonna do like a real freaky one, but it's in my phone, which I'm using for this, so that's not gonna work. So I'm just gonna read one of the ones that's on IG, because that's what's in the notebook. Also, my glasses are like really foggy. I don't know why this bathroom's so hot.
It's because you're in there and you're hot.
Ooh.
Ooh, okay.
Whenever I say it's like hot anywhere, my brother's like, sorry. I'm like, you idiot.
I'm going to steal that.
I love that. Yes. This one is titled Serenity. It's about, yeah. Have y'all seen like all those fucking webtoon commercials and shit?
Yeah.
So I like caved and I started reading Lore Olympus.
Oh, that one's actually I haven't gotten very far, but the art.
It's so good. I love
Sorry,
it.
Ashley. She's just sitting here like, y'all crazy.
I mean, I read webtoons. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. I was reading the one where the girl she's supposed to marry this king and now she's about to die, so she's telling this story to try to save her life. It's real
Breath
deep.
of the Dawn.
Thank you. It's real deep.
Dang.
I'm just like, I need to put this down because this is too much. But go ahead.
Dude, it's so good. And like, so this one, I was kind of doing my take of like the Persephone Hades thing, but like if it were like a real life toxic relationship.
I'm excited.
So, yeah, here we go. Looking to the heavens, she spins, entranced by the euphoric hymns, soothing her shadows as the lights sprung about gleam, bouncing off the bared teeth of those encircling her. Searching the room, she halts, and taking a bow to the cheers exiting the stage of fluidity, bewilderment encroaches her, as news befalls of her condition, fleeing in tears as the rose petals leapt off her spiraled hair. It's spring. As she runs past the garden of tulips, the leaves scrape her white silken lace dress. The night turns cold, bitter with the taste of fermented fruit. Shaking her head as the guest she leaves behind, bursting into the carriage house, she sees him, staring into the pink and purple skies as the stars begin to rise, wondering, when did he turn shy? Her eyes perusing the conspicuousness of his form, enticing her with his gallantry, as he beckons his beloved to enter and close the door behind her. With a sudden defiance of gravity, she is within his arms. Gazing, she is unaware. What is more tormenting, his sudden laugh or that stare? Placing her gently upon their altar of consummation, he smirks, attempting to find the words that escape him as he settles in beside her, his culpability present. Hiding the knife beneath the pillow, seeing the questions burning within her eyes, he deems a version of the truth must suffice. For as the radiance slipped off her skin, he realized she never belonged to him. He lived only but in a dream, within the suppression of her reality, and if he came forth revealing the chaos she'd grown to admire in silence, her serenity would burst into flames. Grasping his face firm, she places him upon her to seal the promises made, locking in her fate, for only amidst his chaos do her demons satiate.
Oh, deep.
That was dope.
Yeah. Thank you.
Dope.
That was the one. That was the one that I had with the. I don't know if y'all saw my fucking picture with the pink bitch. Pink bitch, me. That's that long ass shit put under it.
Don't call yourself a pink bitch.
I was that day.
I'm,
And
I'm
yeah.
vibe. You're such a vibe. Definitely a mood. Okay, Christine, Miss.
Yay. All right. This is called There Is Light. Perhaps the biggest battles are the ones that remain unseen. Who can fathom the height or depth of the galaxies spinning and crashing within your lonely soul? You are the unsung hero of this twisted fable, this perilous journey. Keep fighting, O child of light, against the darkness. Steady now. Hold fast to the truth, though it threatens to crack your heart in two. Breathe. Taste the air around you. Hear the colors. Listen to your smile. Does darkness have a name? Maybe, but so do you.
When you don't know whether you want to snap or clap. He was like,
Really same. All right, and then this one is called And in That Moment, I Knew I Was Healing. When the fog lifted, I realized that the gray days don't have to be sad. They can be rainy, cozy, and sleepy. The quiet pebbling of the water is soothing, like the low hum of the engine and the soft rock music playing in the background at midnight as I travel alone, going anywhere and everywhere. Walking my path doesn't shred my insides to pieces like before. The ache is still there, but as I'm traveling this road alone, I glance over to see my friends on their roads next to me, riding a million a mile. I turn up the music, give them a wave, look into the distance, and smile. Like 2 short, really cute poems.
I like that a lot. I like both of you guys a lot.
I love both of yours too.
For real.
This is what being an artist is like, sharing art and loving it.
Yes.
Yes. All right, Christine, thank you for being a speaker. I want to do this more often and just like record these and like maybe post them on YouTube or some shit. Just us sitting around talking and then sharing some art. I think it's awesome. For lack of better words, happy Juneteenth.
Yes.
Fucking Independence Day, somewhat. We're somewhat free, but whatever. It was this really cool T-shirt I saw. It was like free-ish. I was like, hey,
Oh.
black-ish. No, just kidding. Just kidding. No, but seriously, to everyone who's celebrating this holiday and actually taking this day seriously, thank you, because it does mean a lot to us as a people. We should all take this holiday seriously, and every Independence Day, not just the 4th of July's.
Ooh.
I see what you did there.
That's good.
Thank you. All right, does you guys have anything you want to say before I take us out of here? I don't know what that head thing was. I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to say anything about it.
I saw your face though. You were like, I saw your face.
Everyone tells me, they're just like, yeah, you might have not said anything, but it's screaming loud on your face. I'm like,
That's what I'd be looking for when we're podcasting and I'm looking at your face. I'm just like, She has something funny go through her head. She just don't want to say it. Your facial expressions get you every time.
I got nothing to say.
Nothing to say?
No words of wisdom.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes that's the best word of wisdom. No words. So let's leave it like that. Thanks, guys, for watching us sit here and talk shit. In attempt to do this, we're gonna get better at this one day. I think
Let's say this was the test run.
this was just practice. We'll do another one next month or after that. But thank you guys for watching us. Just be ourselves, because that's really what we've been doing. Just be ourselves and talk shit. And Monroe's wonderful background of colors and brightness. If you listen to the LLP radio podcast, everything that has a whole bunch of colors is her. So just know that's that one right there. And Christine is featured on a couple of our Let's Talk About It. We're actually going to be doing a Let's Talk About It segment on Pride Month, as we are both members of the LGBT community.
I'm in the plus part.
Okay. So that's exciting. And then me and Monroe will be having a second episode for Let's Talk About It on Love Languages, Part 2. So that's going to be interesting.
Ashley is so done. Like, seeing you do that and immediately Ashley's face, I'm like, oh.
Because she used to do that every fucking podcast. And we would be sitting next to each other. And then I'd be looking at her like, don't do that shit. Don't do it. And then she'd look like down and go, "Rrr." I'm like, you're going to get for cougars on this fucking podcast. I'm young, damn it.
I know.
Baby cougar. Anyway.
That's not how that works.
So all right, guys, we're just gonna head this out. It's 10:22. I think I'll post this tomorrow morning because that'll be all right.
It'll be fine.
Love you both.
Bye.
Bye.